Hello everybody and welcome back, and right now let us continue with coding our advanced scanner. So let me just nano the program itself, and in the previous video, as we saw, we managed to actually create the help options for our user. Right now let us create the port scan function, which we specified as the last line of our main function. So let us actually unhash this, and let us use a simple usage of actually running the main function, which is common in Python, which goes like this: if name equals to underscore underscore main underscore underscore, then run the main function. So let us now code the port scan function itself. As we saw right here, the port scan function takes two arguments, which is the host and the port. So let us code it right here. Def port scan. Make sure to name it the same as you named it in the main function, otherwise this will not work. And then we need to specify the two arguments, which we specify right here, which will be the host and the port or ports. We need to end it with the two dots, and everything that is tapped into under this function will be the part of the code. So first of all, what we want to actually do is, what if the user specifies a domain name instead of the IP? We want to actually resolve that domain name and actually get the IP address of that target. So for example, if a user typed -h for the host, and then after the -h typed google.com. If our program didn't resolve that google.com into an IP address, this program will crash and it basically won't be able to scan, since it doesn't really know what google.com is. So what we will do is we will use a function called getHostByName in order to do that. But sometimes it might actually crash, so let's use a try and except rule, which will try one thing, which will be the resolving of name, and in case it can't resolve the name under the except thing, we will actually specify to print out can't resolve the name of the host. So let's see what we actually first need to do in order to resolve the name, so, or the IP address from the name. So actually what we need to do is actually make a variable which we'll call target IP, and that target IP will host the IP address of the host. So we need to get host by name, which is the function we use, and from that we will specify in that function the target host, since that is the host that we need to get the IP from. So this is the entire function that we need to specify for this, and in the except we will just print can't resolve target host or something like that, or let's just print unknown host, and we can print something like this. The %, and then s, and then we can close this and then type %, and then target host. What this will print is basically, if you remember with the %t command, this is the same thing, just this is referring to a string. Now first thing, we need to make this single quote, so this will actually work. So let's recap what this will do. It will try to get host by name, or basically get the IP address, and if that doesn't work, it will print unknown host, and then it will print the host name. So right after that, we actually want to print that it is trying to scan the host itself. So let us just run another try and except rule right after this first one. So we ran the first try and except rule in order to get the host by name, and right now we want to actually get the name, so we can print it out. So target name equals get host by address, and then from target IP. Now as we can see, these are similar functions, but they do the opposite one from another. This one gets the host name, or basically the IP address, from the host name, and this one gets the name from the address. So right now, once we actually type that, we want to actually print, and let's add a plus right here, and let's actually print scan results for, and then we can just do it like this, and then add the target IP. What this will do is it will basically print out scan results for that IP address, or no, we want to actually do this in the except rule, so pardon me, this is not a part that goes right here, so let me just delete this. This is the part that goes right here, so paste this under the except, and in the try we actually want to print the target name. So print, and we want to type it right here with a plus, so it knows everything works well. Scan results for, and then we can add the target name. And since target name, we can actually try, since target name retrieves as a list, we need to use the first element of that list, which we will specify with this 0 in the square brackets. Now, if you're not familiar with the lists, or basically the counting in Python, the counting always starts from 0 and not 1. So the first element in the target name list will be marked with the number 0 and not with the number 1. So now that we did that, we can actually use the function that we used in the previous video, which is set default timeout, so we don't actually wait for an eternity for a single port to scan. So set default timeout to be, for example, 1 second, and right now we can perform a similar function or a similar part of code that we performed in our previous program. So for target port, so for target port, in target ports, which basically means for every port in all of the ports that you specified in the command, we want to actually run a different function which will scan those ports, and we want to run all of those ports with a different thread. So how can we do that? We will use a variable called th to select a thread, and we will use thread, open brackets, close brackets, and right here what we want to do is type here target equals, and after this target equals we need to specify the name of the function which will perform the scanning of the ports. So we will call that function, for example, connection scan, so conscan, then comma, arguments for that function will be actually just the target host and the target port, so make sure to separate by comma, then args equal open brackets and close brackets, and in those open and close brackets we specify target host, and we specify the integer of the target port. We close the brackets for this, so make sure you have 3 brackets at the end. Since we opened 1, 2, and 3 brackets, we need to close all of those 3 brackets. Now basically, you might be asking, why are we using integer? Well, we use integer for the same reason that we used it in the previous video, or pardon me, in the previous program, which is the port scanner 2.py, I believe, since the socket library actually needs an integer value of port in order to be able to scan it. And all we have to do right now is actually start all these ports. So in order to start the port, you just use this variable and added a function called start. Simple as that. And all we have to do right now, which we will do in the next video, is actually code a simple connect and connect function which will determine whether the port is closed or open. So that's an easiest part, so don't worry, we already performed most of those things the same, and we will finish the program in the next tutorial. So hope I see you there, and take care. Bye.